And we are back on Take Action News, and our next guest is Ryan Grimm, Washington Bureau Chief of the Huffington Post. Ryan, are you with us?
I'm with you.
All right, great to have you on the show. This is RJ Eskow, and we're back on Take Action News, and at last we meet after all these years of my reading you. So listen, the story I wanted to talk to you about seems like a trivial one, but it won't go away, and I thought maybe you could help me understand why that is, and that's the story of this Duck Dynasty guy, Phil Robertson, and I figured the story had a shelf life of or a half-life of about 48 hours. Some idiot says racist things, gets thrown off the air, and that's it. But of course, unlike some of the other folks, he didn't get thrown off the air. He was suspended and then brought back, and then I thought, well, okay, some racist idiot gets thrown off and brought back, and then it goes away. But yet you wrote about it because the story, there keep being new developments to it, and the latest involves viral media and an organization understood to be progressive. Can you tell us a little bit about Change.org and Nation Builder and the Duck Dynasty story?
Yeah, sure. And first, I think there's that, and I might be in the minority here, but I think there's actually a legitimate argument for leaving the guy on the air. I mean, the show is basically, it's a reality show. It's a documentary. It's billed to be a documentary. To me, it'd be like if you did a documentary about a KKK group or a neo-Nazi group, and then found yourself offended and angry at the people because they said racist, white supremacist things. I mean that you're in those cases you're exploring the culture of the KKK or neo-Nazis. I mean it's either a reality show or it's not, and if it is, then this is the reality of it, for better or for worse, and you just put it out there. So I think in that sense there's an argument for it to be left on, but that's not really how the debate shook down. It really shook down progressive versus kind of evangelical conservative community, where A&E came out and said we're going to suspend the guy, and it looked like they might boot him, and then there was this uprising from evangelical conservatives. First they targeted Cracker Barrel because Cracker Barrel took out some of the Duck Dynasty paraphernalia that they had in their gift shop, and Cracker Barrel put it back in from this pressure. But there then became a more organized online effort to harness this energy in the conservative grassroots and to point it at A&E to say, look, put this guy back on the air. And for the last several years, as the RNC autopsy has made clear, the right has done a terrible job at developing kind of grassroots technology, the kind of the basic internet tools that allow people to easily engage in activism. You need something that is simple, it's clean, it's elegant, and that is much harder to do than it sounds. And so, the left was far ahead of the right on this, and and two companies in particular led the way on this: Change.org and Nation Builder. And despite the name Change.org, it actually is a for-profit company. So a lot of people that go on and see the .org probably wouldn't expect that. In the last fall, they announced, or it was actually leaked, that they were going to no longer have a litmus test and require their customers to be progressive. They would take all comers. And so, one problem that they have is that they don't have a ton of conservative signatures. They don't have a lot of names that they can offer to groups like the National Republican Senate Committee, which is one of their clients this year. So something like this can really help. So what happened is they had something like 150 or 200 petitions organically created by. They appeared mostly to be created by evangelical Christians who were saying, he's a man of faith and he's entitled to his practice his religion, and it's unfair to target him for this. The typical kind of persecution complex that a lot of the evangelical movement has, and they promoted the petition, put it on their front page, tweeted it out, and it wound up. And Nation Builder had its own website, I Stand with Phil, garnered some 250,000 signatures, and was widely cited as kind of the impetus for A&E taking Phil Robertson back. Now, whatever you think of the controversy itself, it shows how the evangelical movement was able to harness its own power by using progressive tools to accomplish its goal.
So let me just jump in for a second then. I mean, first of all, thanks for your perspective on the issue itself. As someone, I like to say that my Southern Baptist relatives put the cracker in Cracker Barrel. But I think that I think you make a great point about, first of all, the reality show aspect of it, and secondly, I tend to get very uncomfortable with people getting thrown off the air for expressing opinions, but people did find those opinions offensive. But I think the only other thing I'd add, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that Change.org was originally nonprofit and progressive and built its strength that way, and then switched to for-profit. Is that correct?
I don't think so. I thought it had always been a B corporation, which is and it still is. This is a for-profit corporation that is required by its charter to not pay dividends to shareholders, and instead it funnels its profits, if it makes them, back into the company itself, which is a slightly different kind of for-profit company than a typical one. You might be right. It may, perhaps in the very early days, it was a nonprofit and switched. It has always been. It had always been consciously progressive. It was.
Yeah, and I think, just to jump in for a second, I think that either way, the perception, just to push the other side of the argument, the perception is that they built their success with progressive talent and progressive support and progressive membership. And now they're flipping and capitalizing on, this is the perception I'm saying, they're flipping and capitalizing on that to build a conservative base on whatever we think of whether folks.
No, I mean, you're right. The clients of Change.org throughout its tenure, in the beginning were, it was labor, it was the Sierra Club, it was other liberal groups. I mean, there was no question at all that it was funded by and staffed by progressives, and they began to get a little bit uncomfortable with that as they tried to expand their business model, and that's where the reinvention came in the fall of 2012.
So what's the lesson here? I mean, I guess in a sense, there are two stories. There's a Phil Robertson story, which keeps going on and on with this opinion and that opinion that he expresses. But as my last question to you, I guess, what's the takeaway on the Change.org, the nation builder side of it? Is this just a battle that the progressive movement's going to have to figure out for itself? Is there anything people should be following going forward on this?
I mean, part of that's it. I think one lesson is that this is, money. Money is extremely powerful, and wealth can drive a lot of decisions. And I think, as long as we have this culture of this extreme wealth and inequality, I think we're going to continue to see things like this. I really think that you would need to go back to some extraordinarily high kind of marginal income tax rate at the top to make it so that it was less desirable to get as rich as some people are able to get. Because let's say that you could even implement some system of public campaign financing. You'd still have a system where all of the staffers in Congress, members of Congress and senators, would know that the corporate interests who are bringing legislation to them are able to hire them at multiples of their current salary when they're out of there. And as long as that is an attractive thing, I think you're gonna see this type of scenario play out. At one point, I think in the 50s, the marginal tax rate was 90% on income over a certain level. I think you would need to go 93. Yeah, I think you would need to go back to something like that.
Under Dwight D. Eisenhower. All right, Ryan, thanks so much for being with us. I guess the lesson is more equitable society, and beware, because your IT guy probably wants to be Mark Zuckerberg. So
I think that's right.
Thanks so much for being with us, Ryan, and I hope you'll come back again to Take Action News.
Happy to.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. This is RJ Eskow. We are going to take a break and be right back.